When two people learn how to pour into each other safely, consistently, love can start to feel like a getaway. Not the kind you book, the kind you feel. A safe place, a soft place, somewhere you can hide when life gets too loud. No phones, no work, no outside opinions trying to shape what you have. Just two hearts choosing to be still long enough to really connect. Because the heart doesn't have a compass. It doesn't know Jamaica from California, a luxury resort from a quiet little piece of heaven near the water, a first class flight from a simple little drive down the coast. And it doesn't measure love like that. It just knows when it can rest, when it can beat a little easier, because it's been held right, because it's been safe, because it's been moving through life with someone who makes every inhale softer and every exhale lighter. And when love feels like that, the heart has no reason to panic, no reason to brace itself, no reason to run. That's the important thing. Not where you go, but who you can finally be at peace with when you get there. Love is Love is always sweeter when it's consistent, when it's safe. That's the kind of love Arlita and Andre had. The kind that grows slow and steady. They met 5 years ago at a car wash. Neither of them had come looking for anything or anyone that day. Both were simply minding their own business until somehow they ended up in each other's. Arlita had been scrubbing her windshield so vigorously that the squeegee slipped from her hand and flew across the bay, hitting Andre right on the side of the head. He turned around immediately, ready to ask for an apology, until he saw her. Her hands were covering her mouth, eyes wide with that unmistakable oops look. Andre picked up the runway squeegee and walked over to her, trying his best not to laugh. He offered to help her clean the bird droppings off her Nissan Altima before she injured another innocent bystander. Arlita laughed and agreed. An embarrassing accidental incident turned into a whole conversation, and they talked about everything, from her obsession with keeping her car squeaky clean to the small details of their everyday lives. Time slipped past them without either of them noticing. By the time they finally looked up again, the sun was setting behind the buildings, casting long golden shadows across the parking lot. And in that quiet moment, both of them felt it. Something rare, something sacred, something warm enough to hide inside for a little while. But they didn't rush it. They took their time. They stayed friends for a couple of years, learning each other slowly. Still, there was always a quiet current between them, a steady thread of love and care neither of them could quite ignore. So, a year ago, when Andre finally asked if she would be his exclusively, Arlita didn't hesitate, and she said yes the same way their story had always unfolded, like it was something that was simply meant to be. And during their time together, that quiet, steady love had carried them through life, through ordinary days, through responsibilities, through the constant rhythm of work, family, and everything in between. Sometimes life has a way of getting louder than love. And that week, life had been relentless. Arlita stood in the kitchen stirring a pot she'd been too tired to even smell, enduring the overlapping chaos of the evening. The kids arguing in the living room, her phone buzzing on the counter, a group chat was lighting up with family gossip she didn't have the energy to respond to. Earlier that day, her ex had sent a message that started with, "We need to talk." At work, two deadlines had been pushed forward, and somewhere between school pickups and conference calls, she realized she hadn't taken a single breath that actually felt like relief. Across town, Andre's week hadn't been any kinder to him. Work had piled on responsibility the way it always did when people knew he could handle it. A friend had called needing advice about a relationship that wasn't his to fix. His own phone had been buzzing nonstop with requests, favors, and expectations. By Thursday night, he sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the kind of exhaustion that didn't come from work alone, the kind that comes from being drained, from being needed by everyone, from carrying too much for too long. He reached for his phone. At that exact same moment, Arlita reached for hers. Andre stared at the screen for a moment before laughing quietly to himself. Of course. He chuckled as he read the identical text. It had been a while since they'd taken time to just connect. Maybe this was a little divine guidance telling them it was time. Arlita looked around the noisy kitchen again. The arguments, her work phone buzzing, the endless responsibilities waiting for her tomorrow. Then she looked back at Andre's message. Andre leaned back on the bed, smiling. For once, life was going to wait. And for the next few days, the world would belong to only two people, Andre and Arlita. The next 24 hours moved with the kind of urgency that only comes when the perfect getaway is within reach. The kind of escape some people only dream about. Yes, Miss Tanya, just tonight and tomorrow night, she said, folding a soft sweater into her bag. I'll be back Sunday afternoon. She paused to listen, hoping her last minute plans wouldn't send her scrambling for another babysitter. But Tanya sounded excited. Yes, the kids already know the rules. Arlita laughed lightly, and I'll send extra money for pizza tomorrow. Across town, Andre paced his living room with his own phone pressed to his ear. I'm still working on the report, he said to his coworker, but everything you need is in the shared folder. He rubbed the back of his neck. No, I'm not disappearing, he said, exhaling the stress of the week and the tedious assignment he was finally getting help with. I'm just taking a couple of days. A brief pause, then a grin spread across his face. Yeah, man, he said with a quiet laugh. I know. She is something special. He hung up and looked around his apartment, his closed laptop, which he refused to bring with him, the packed suitcase, and the small gift bag he planned to surprise Arlita with when they got there. Just as the excitement kicked in, his phone buzzed. It was Arlita. On the other side of town, Arlita sat on the edge of her bed reading his messages again and again. Finally, something sweet to savor after the bitterness of the last crazy week. But suddenly, the stress felt like it was loosening its grip. Andre stared at the screen for a moment before replying. Arlita felt like a kid excited about a summer trip, the kind of excitement that makes sleep impossible. Love can do that to you when you know it's right and when you know the feeling is mutual. A whole night passed, but in her mind it felt like only seconds before the sun rose, and headlights rolled slowly to the curb outside. It was Andre's car. The anticipation that had been building all day suddenly turned into something warmer, something softer, something she had been craving all week. She grabbed her bags, glanced at herself in the mirror, and headed for the door. Outside, Andre leaned against the car watching the front door, and when it finally opened, his tired week seemed to fade away, because the one thing he'd been looking forward to was finally walking toward him. Arlita stepped outside with her bag slung over one shoulder, the evening air brushing gently against her face. Andre pushed himself off the car as soon as he saw her. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Not rushed, not distracted, just present. The kind of pause that only happens when two people are finally standing in the same place after a long week apart. Andre smiled first. There she is. Arlita laughed softly as he took her bag from her shoulder. You act like we weren't just cupcaking for a whole hour last night. She joked, leaning over to kiss Andre on the cheek. Andre smiled. Wish it could have been longer. Their fingers brushed as he placed her bag in the trunk. That small touch sent a quiet warmth through both of them. Andre walked around and opened the passenger door for her. Your ride awaits. He guided her into the seat where a huge bouquet of red and orange roses rested beside a small snack pack for the ride. He was always thoughtful like that. Arlita grabbed the roses, smiling softly as she settled into the seat, watching Andre walk around the front of the car like she always did. There was something about Andre when he was calm like this. Less tension in his shoulders, less weight on his face. She loved knowing that being around her did that to him. Are we really doing this? She asked, tossing her head back like she was waiting to wake up from a beautiful dream. Andre started the engine, then shrugged lightly. Yes, he said, meeting her eyes. We are. Then shamelessly pulled away from the curb. The city lights slowly faded behind them as the road opened ahead. Buildings gave way to long stretches of quiet highway. Arlita leaned her head back against the seat, exhaling slowly. I already feel lighter. Andre glanced over at her. You ain't even seen the ocean yet. And she smiled. Still. The car filled with a comfortable silence. The kind that only happens when two people know each other well enough not to force conversation. A while later, Andre pointed ahead. Look. Arlita turned toward the window. The dark stretch of water appeared beside the highway, reflecting the fading orange of the sky. The ocean. She inhaled sharply. Oh my God. Andre chuckled softly. Worth the drive? She shook her head, still staring out at the water. Worth everything. Andre rested his arm casually along the center console. Arlita's hand found his without either of them really thinking about it. Their fingers intertwined. Outside the window, the coastline stretched endlessly beside them. Inside the car, the noise of the world had already started to disappear. By the time Andre turned onto the quiet street leading toward their hotel, the sky had already begun melting into shades of gold and amber. Carmel by the sea felt like a different world. Small cottages with glowing windows, tree-lined streets that smelled faintly of salt and wood smoke, the distant sound of waves rolling against the shore. Arlita lowered the window slightly, letting the cool ocean air drift inside the car. For a moment, neither of them moved. The quiet around them felt almost sacred. No traffic, no notifications, no responsibilities tugging at their attention, just the ocean somewhere beyond the trees. Andre grabbed their bags while Arlita stepped out of the car, stretching her arms toward the sky. He held the door open for her as they walked inside the small lobby, warm lamplight spilling across the wooden floors. Within minutes, they had their room key. Andre pushed open the door to their suite. Arlita stepped inside first and froze. Floor-to-ceiling windows faced the ocean. The sunset was pouring into the room in a golden glow that made everything look warm and soft. The bed was layered with plush blankets. A small table sat near the window with two glasses and a chilled bottle waiting. But Arlita barely noticed any of that. She walked straight toward the balcony doors and opened them. The sea breeze wrapped around her immediately. Andre watched from the doorway as she stepped outside. Her braids lifted slightly in the wind while the last light of the sun painted her skin in warm gold. She leaned against the balcony railing, staring out at the water. Andre walked up behind her slowly. "You like it?" Arlita didn't turn around. She was still looking at the horizon. "Like it?" she whispered, her eyes shining. "I love it." Andre stepped even closer, close enough that the breeze brushed both of them, close enough that the world felt smaller. Alita rested her head lightly against his shoulder. They stood for a while, watching the sun sink toward the water. No rush, no interruption, just the quiet rhythm of waves and the warmth of each other. After a moment, Andre spoke softly. "You know what I like most about this place?" "What?" Arlita replied. He glanced down at her. "How quiet everything is." Arlita smiled. He slid an arm gently around her waist. "But mostly I like that I get you to myself for a couple of days." She laughed quietly and leaned into him. The last edge of sunlight slipped beneath the horizon, golden hour fading into evening, but the warmth between them stayed. And for the first time in a long time, Andre and Arlita had nowhere else to be. The restaurant sat tucked along one of Carmel's quiet streets, its windows glowing softly in the evening light. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and unhurried. Low music drifted through the room, candles flickered on every table. The faint scent of garlic and wine floated through the air. Arlita leaned back in her chair, her glass of wine resting lightly between her fingers. "I can't remember the last time I sat down somewhere to eat and I didn't feel rushed." Andre lifted his drink slightly. "That's because back home everybody wants something from you every 5 minutes." She laughed. "That's true." He studied her across the table for a moment. Her shoulders looked looser now. Her smile came easier. The tension that had been living in her eyes earlier in the week seemed to have melted somewhere between the highway and the ocean breeze. "You even look different," he said. Arlita raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" Andre shrugged, leaning back in his chair. "Relax." She tilted her head thoughtfully. "I feel relaxed." The waiter arrived with their food, placing the plates between them before slipping quietly away again. Arlita glanced down at her plate. "Okay, this looks amazing." Andre chuckled. "You say that about everything when you're hungry." "Not true," she said, pointing her fork toward him. "Only when it actually looks good." They started eating. the conversation drifting easily between playfully teasing and comfortable silence. At one point, Arlita paused mid-bite. "What's wrong?" Andre asked. She shook her head with a small smile. "I was just thinking, this is so nice." Andre nodded slowly. No phones on the table, no interruptions, just the quiet murmur of the restaurant around them. Arlita reached for her glass again. "You know what I like most about this place?" She glanced around the candlelit room. "Everybody seems calm." Andre followed her gaze. Couples talking quietly, people laughing softly, no one rushing through the meals. "It's like time slows down here," he said. Arlita took another sip of her wine. "We needed this." Andre lifted his glass again, gently clinking it against hers. "To meeting our own needs." She smiled and raised her glass as she added, "To love." Outside the window, the night had fully settled over Carmel. Inside, the warmth of the restaurant wrapped around them like a quiet promise. For once, neither of them felt the pressure of everything waiting back home. Tonight wasn't about responsibilities. It wasn't about solving problems. Tonight was simply about two people enjoying each other's company and remembering how good that could feel. When they stepped outside the restaurant, the night air greeted them with a cool softness. Carmel had grown even quieter. Street lamps cast warm circles of light onto the sidewalks, and the faint sound of the ocean drifted through the evening breeze. Arlita slipped her arms into her light jacket while Andre held the door for her. "Full?" he asked. She laughed softly. "Very." They began walking down the small street together, neither of them in any hurry to get back to the hotel. The town felt peaceful in a way that made them slow down naturally. Small art galleries glowed softly through their windows. Couples passed by quietly. Somewhere down the street, someone was playing music, soft guitar floating through the night air. Arlita slipped her hand into Andre's. It happened so naturally that neither of them even looked down. But Andre tightened his grip around her fingers, secure, steady, protective. The kind of touch that said, "You're safe with me." And the kind that made the quiet passion between them start to stir again. After a moment, she sighed. "Remember that place I took you to on our first date?" Andre asked, stepping behind her, letting his arms wrap around her waist. "How could I forget?" she replied, smiling. "I think you're the only man who ever drove me 3 hours just for dinner because I said it was my favorite city." She leaned back into him, her fingers resting over his. "I was trying to impress you," Andre admitted with a quiet smile, "and it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made." "It was peaceful," he added, looking around the quiet street. "Serene." "It was," she agreed. "The moment we got here, I understood why you loved it so much." "Oh?" she said, turning slightly toward him. "Tell me more." "When I met you, we were surrounded by chaos. City noise, horns, traffic, loud-ass car wash machines." He paused and smiled. "And the ringing in my head from you hitting me with that squeegee." Arlita laughed. "I did not hit you. It flew over there without my permission, sir." "I still have a knot on my head from the impact," he joked. "Then sue me," she replied, smiling. "I did think about that," Andre joked, and she playfully nudged him. In that moment, Andre stumbled lightly into the storefront window behind him, catching himself as he leaned back against the glass. The laughter faded. Something deeper settled into his expression. Heat, thought, desire, even with all that chaos. He said quietly, "I felt your calmness." He looked at her in that moment. "Your ability to stay grounded even when everything around you is uncertain." His voice softened. and it spoke to the part of me that gets anxious sometimes. I knew I had to have that, had to have you. Arlita stepped closer, wrapping her arms around his neck as she searched his eyes. There was that look again, the one he gave her when he was thinking deeply about them, the one that always made her feel seen. You give me calm too, my love, she said softly, just in a different way. Tell me more, Andre murmured, pulling her closer and pressing a gentle kiss into the curve of her neck. Arlita let her fingers slide slowly through his thick beard. I don't know how you do it, she said, but somehow you always know when I'm running out of patience, when I'm running out of calm. Her thumb brushed along his jawline. And you do something that fills my cup up again. Andre tilted his head back slightly, enjoying the slow, familiar touch of her fingers moving through his beard. Isn't that what real connection is? He said quietly, knowing your partner's capacity and loving them with it in mind. Arlita smiled softly. We have something special, Andre. She leaned forward, letting her lips meet his. A slow kiss, warm, deep, and immediately familiar. A quiet, divine warmth passed between them, undeniable and inviting. Andre smiled against her lips. I saw it first, he whispered before kissing her again, this time deeper. The passion between them thickened quickly, the kind that had been waiting patiently all week. Soon the quiet street, the soft music, the warm lights of Carmel all faded into the background, because in the middle of that peaceful night, their bodies remembered what their hearts had known all along, and the pull between them became impossible to ignore. Without another word, they turned toward the hotel, ready to enjoy each other in ways life hadn't given them the time for back home. Arlita woke up first, to the ocean lightly roaring to the rhythm of the wind, the sun peeking through the sheer curtains, the smell of bacon from the breakfast the concierge dropped off, and the hand that belonged to the love of her life gently wrapped around her waist. The crisp, white linen smelt faintly of perfumed detergent with a hint of bleach. Freshly washed, clean, soft. Her favorite part of staying in hotels. She felt the calm of this peaceful day holding her just as close as Andre held her now. She rolled over slowly and wrapped her arms around his neck to wake him, but he was sound asleep, snoring like a baby. Andre always told her he struggled with sleep, but when they were together, he rested, deep, easy, like his body knew it could finally let go. She nuzzled her face gently against his, brushing her lips along his neck in a soft attempt to wake him once more. But he only stirred slightly. His grip tightened around her waist, and he buried his face deeper in the crook of her neck. Arlita smiled. Their scents had blended overnight. Her perfume, his cologne, a hint of sweat and desire, creating something that belonged only to them. She rocked him gently. He lifted his head just enough to peek at her, one eye open, the other still refusing the morning. The sun has rose, my love, she whispered softly, placing slow kisses across his face. So must we. The sun sucks, he murmured, half asleep, hiding his face in her neck again to shield himself from the light. Arlita laughed softly, her fingers moving through his locks, gently pushing them out of his face. It's a beautiful day, she whispered. Let's watch the sunrise on the balcony. I can't help but rest around you, he murmured, nuzzling deeper into her neck, intentionally letting his lips graze her skin this time. Slower, warmer, more aware. Arlita exhaled softly, letting the feeling linger for a second longer before easing out of his arms. I'll meet you on the balcony. she said gently, slipping away from his grip. She stood as she wrapped the robe around her frame, the fabric brushing softly against her skin as she moved. She meant to grab the breakfast. She meant to set everything up for them to enjoy. But the moment she stepped outside, she forgot. The view called her closer. The smell of the ocean, the sound of the waves crashing, the air clean, alive. It woke up every sense in her body and soothed the parts of her that had been aching all week. She stepped closer to the railing, letting the breeze move through her, breathing, finally breathing. Behind her, she heard Andre, slower now, still walking, still soft. He gathered the tray she had forgotten and stepped out beside her. "For the lady," he said, his voice low, warm, familiar. He handed her a mimosa, his fingers brushing hers as he did. She smiled, still half lost in the view. He set everything down, separating the trays, placing her plate in front of her like it was second nature. "It's divine," she whispered, almost breathless, taking it all in. Andre watched her more than the ocean. "I knew you'd love it," he said, taking a sip, his hand settling naturally on her leg. Warm, steady, present. They sat there for a while. She laid her head on his shoulder, the sun rising slowly, the ocean moving endlessly, their bodies still carrying the memory of the night before. They sat on the balcony, wrapped in something divine but real, until the sun was nice and high in the cyan sky. They started their day with a very steamy shared shower. The sun peeked through the crystal clear glass door as the white shower head above them bathed their bodies in warm, steamy water. They lathered each other in vanilla caramel shower gel, stealing kisses and soft glances during the time they were supposed to be cleaning themselves. Arlita loved lathering soap on Andre's smooth chocolate skin, moving her hands along his body slow and careful, like she was searching for the places her name was secretly written on him. Andre moaned softly in pleasure as she traced the veins on his forearm, working her way up to his meaty shoulders, then back down to his thick lower back. With the lather still on her hands, she placed kisses along his back, only on the tense places, as if her kisses could melt away the stress the world had pressed onto him. And from the relaxed exhales and deep moans coming from him, it seemed like she almost could. "You're really good at that," he said, placing both hands on the shower wall, leaning into it as his muscles revealed the definition he worked so hard to maintain. "Only when I like who I'm doing it for," she replied, her words slipping in between kisses and slow, intentional touches. Andre chuckled. He turned to face her, seductive, grounded, completely hers, gently grabbing the loofah and guiding her back against the wall as he began to clean her in places the sun had never seen. "I want to hear how much you love me," he said, his touch gentle, but firm enough to make her ache for more. "That's a big word," she replied, her voice breaking between soft moans, her eyes never leaving his even as the pleasure made it hard to stay still. "I want to hear it," he said again, applying just a little more pressure, ignoring the pulse beneath his fingers. Arlita's body gave in to the feeling, gravity and desire pulling her into him as the moment deepened. "I love you. You know I do," she breathed out, unable to hold it back any longer. Andre gave her a slight smile, watching her unravel beneath him, the water hissing louder around them as if it, too, was witnessing something sacred. Even the sunlight seemed to grow brighter, like it wanted a closer look at the love they were creating in that space. And she gave in. like she always did when it came to Andre. Gave in and gave over in ways no other man could ever make her, because his love was sweeter than the scent of her whipped shea vanilla caramel wash, and he knew exactly how to pull it from her, day or night. The shower ended with a soft, lingering kiss. They left their hideout later that afternoon, a little after 1. They grabbed a pizza downtown, visited an art gallery, and wandered through a few shops. Arlita found a cute boutique not too far from the gallery and bought herself a new pair of shoes, while Andre picked out a mid-sized piece of art he wanted to gift to his mother. They moved through the day slowly. No rushing, no pressure, just enjoying each other in between everything. They made it back to their room around 5, just in time to change and get ready for the sunset picnic Andre had arranged. But this wasn't just any picnic. It was a deluxe setup arranged by a local event company. A fabric draped tent covered a beautifully decorated table, surrounded by elaborate pillows that cushioned them as they sat on the ground. Everything felt soft, intentional, elevated, like a moment designed just for them. They talked about their week apart, the stress of work, the kids, friends, and family relationships that always seemed to need more than they had to give, even the complicated parts of their past. Alita spoke about her ongoing custody case, how her ex had been trying to get her to pay child support, stretching a situation that already felt heavy. Andre opened up about his daughters, the distance, the once a month visits, the possibility of seeing them even less if their mother moved them further away. The weight of real life found its way into their space, but it didn't overpower them. It just passed through. Because even in the middle of hard conversation, they stayed connected, grounded, soft with each other. When the tension got too thick, life reminded them to laugh. Stories about friends, unexpected moments, the kind of laughter that shakes your whole body and pulls you right out of whatever was weighing on you seconds before. And just like that, the heaviness dissolved, replaced with warmth, with lightness, with the kind of peace that only shows up when you feel safe. The sun dipped lower, painting everything in soft gold and amber. The waves crashed gently in the distance, and for a while, nothing else mattered but them. Eventually, the day began to close. They walked back slowly, strutting past the same shops they had wandered into earlier, now closed. Quiet, bathed in the soft glow of street lamps and porch lights that cast a warm auburn hue over everything, like sienna moonlight resting gently over the town. There was something about Carmel, the way everything felt intentional, cohesive, soft ivory tones, buttery browns, greens kissed with gold, colors that caught the sunlight during the day and glowed gently at night. It felt peaceful, well thought out, like even the town understood the importance of slowing down. When they made it back to the room, they collapsed onto the bed, bodies relaxed, energy soft, a bottle of Prosecco between them, the ocean just beyond the window, waves moving in a steady rhythm. They lay there, close, quiet, sipping slowly, letting the day settle into their bones. Full, light, the kind of day you don't plan, but somehow turns out perfect anyway, like they had written it themselves. The sun's golden light bathed their suite in a soft, glowing mix of gold kissed with orange. It was the last morning in Carmel, and Andre hadn't slept. He had been up most of the night, tossing, turning, shifting under the covers like rest just wouldn't settle on him. Even when Arlita woke in the middle of the night and rubbed his back, her touch gentle and familiar, it didn't fully calm him. Feeling had returned. The one that always came with the weight of going back to responsibilities, back to expectations, back to pressure. It crept in quietly, but once it settled, it held on. Andre lay there staring at the ceiling, his mind running through everything waiting for him at home. Work deadlines, family needs, friends leaning on him in ways he never quite knew how to say no to. He had always been that man, the one who showed up, the one who carried it, the one who stayed strong for everyone else, even when it drained him, even when it cost him peace. Arlita called it his Superman mode. She was the only one who didn't admire it. She challenged it, protected him from it, refused to let him break himself just to be everything for everyone. Andre turned his head slightly to see Arlita was asleep beside him, her body turned toward his, her hand still resting on his back, like she had fallen asleep during her attempt to comfort him. He smiled softly. Even in her sleep, she was loving on him, grounding him. He eased out of the bed, carefully not wanting to wake her, and walked into the bathroom. Cold water. He splashed it against his face once, then again, trying to shake the feeling, trying to steady himself. Because today mattered. He held a price for her, and he wanted to meet that moment fully. Not distracted, not weighed down, present. He stepped into the living room suite where the sunlight stretched wider, brighter, filling the space with warmth. His eyes fell to the small box resting on the table. He walked toward it slowly. Inside, the ring, rose gold, ornate, a pear-shaped stone that caught the morning light and gave it back softer, warmer. Hope sat inside that box. A future, a life built on everything they had already proven to be real. He imagined it on her hand. Imagined her saying yes. Imagined mornings like this becoming routine, not temporary. The thought softened something in him, loosened the tight grip of everything waiting back home. Because this was his real life too. Not just the pressure, not just the responsibility, but this love. He looked back down the hallway. Arlita was still asleep, peaceful, unbothered, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with effort. Andre closed the box slowly, exhaled, then walked back to the bed and slid in beside her again. Real life could wait a little longer. Arlita, he said quietly, I brought you here because I knew we needed this. She watched him carefully as he spoke. But somewhere between the drive, the balcony, the beach, and every minute in between, I realized something. I don't just want little getaways with you. I want all of it. He reached into his pocket and dropped down onto one knee. The wind caught in her braids. Her hand flew to her mouth. I want the loud days with you, the quiet ones, the crazy ones, the beautiful ones. He opened the ring box. I want to keep finding little moments of peace with you for the rest of my life. I want to hide in your love for as long as God gives me breath. Tears rushed her eyes. Marry me, Arlita. For a second, the whole world seemed to hold still. Then she laughed through her tears. Of course. Andre stood and pulled her into his arms, and she kissed him before he could say another word. The ring caught the last of the sunlight as the waves rolled behind them. And Carmel, quiet, golden, beautiful Carmel, became the place where forever found them. The next morning, their bags waited by the door, packed and ready. Andre stood by the window looking out at the water. Arlita came up behind him and slipped her arms around his waist. He covered her hands with his. "This felt really good," he said softly. "I could get used to this," she whispered. Andre turned to face her, and for a second that old tension flickered. Again, the thought of going back, of life getting loud, of life getting loud, of the world trying to tug at what they had built here. "I just don't want to lose this," he admitted. Arlita placed both hands against his chest. "Hey." Andre looked down at her. "My love isn't just in caramel." Her fingers traced slowly over his heart. "It's here. Whenever you need it. Wherever you need it." His shoulders eased. She smiled that soft, certain smile he loved. "Going back doesn't mean we lose this," she said softly. "It just means we learn how to find little moments of this in the middle of the craziness. That's love." Her hand slid down to where the ring rested on her finger. "That's our love, Andre." Outside, the ocean kept moving. Inside, peace settled between them again. And for the first time, Andre understood what happily ever after really was. Not a life without noise, not a world without pressure, but a love so steady, so sacred, so safe, that even when life got loud, they could disappear into each other like shelter from the cold and shade from the sun. So they grabbed their bags, walked out into the morning, and carried that quiet kind of forever back into the world with them. Because the greatest love stories aren't built on luxury. They're built on two people learning how to be soft with each other in a world that never stops being hard. And somewhere between the noise of real life and a quiet little vacation by the sea, Andre and Arlita found something they could take back with them. Not escape, not fantasy, but a love steady enough to hold them when life got loud again. And every time it did, they knew exactly where to go. Right back to each other.
Handwritten love letters, combos and quality time. Baby, it's something about the way you move that keeps me swooning for you. You make me feel like we stepped off a movie set. You can bet we got that retro love. This is gonna last. So if they ask, just say it's retro love. And if you feel what I feel, you the lover for real. Say let me hear you sing. Yeah. Now I'ma throw it back on you. Call us mom and dad for the night. Well, alright. Tell you, baby, it's something about the way, yeah, that keeps me swooning for you. You don't text me no WID. You pull up on me, baby, with a bouquet in hand. That's retro. He said he gon' build me a big brick house with a white picket fence. Got me blushing while we cuddling the name of the kids. That's retro. That's say, show enough, let me hear you sing. Now all the fellas sing. Now all the pretty ladies sing.